Don't think about it. Either one of you can hop in.
Okay.
The strongest memory that you have, like the most intense memory, where you can think of the most details, the most specifics, feels the most real when you recall it. What is it? If it's not like something that's going to make us all cry.
Do you have one, Julie? I'll spitball one that just popped in my head.
I think of like my earliest memory is what comes to mind for some reason.
Okay.
Like I remember my very first memory of I was at a babysitter's and there were kids playing outside, but I was too little, and being behind the glass and looking out and being jealous of that and kind of what the house was like behind me. Like that's
okay.
And I remember it very clearly. And I've been told that I was tiny at that time, but I remember it very clearly.
Okay.
Man, looking through the glass.
Andrew?
There we go. What popped in my head, I'm really bad at remembering some details. The first time we took our oldest to Disney World, you're on Main Street, USA. And that was back, it was like the start of like cut the cable, cut the cord, whatever it may be. So he was like Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, all these like Nickelodeon and Disney Junior shows. Like he was, I think 2.5, 3, going Main Street. There's like the parade and he's like, that's Mickey Mouse. That's these characters. And he's young, but also not super young where he could like actually get it in his face. Like there's no filter of like, this is like happening to me. Like he probably doesn't remember whatsoever, but as a parent, you're like, okay, Disney's crazy expensive to go to, even if you're in Florida. Like, that's pretty cool. That's worth it. That's why people do these things.
Okay. So I asked the question because I like testing theories. But I wrote something it was actually to promote our last episode on LinkedIn. And trust me, I try to be pretty humble person, but every once in a while, I mean, really infrequently, honestly, I'll write something and I'm like, oh man, I don't know where that came from, but that was really good. And it's this quote, that emotion's job is to be the glue of the non-tangible parts of our life. Emotion's job is to be the glue to the non-tangible parts of our lives. It's as a kid, you had really strong emotions around being blocked off from everyone else. And that's why
this is trauma.
All of that emotion means everything that's coming in when that emotion hits, it just somehow gets locked inside of us. Certainly the same thing with Disney on like a even more nuanced and layered scale of you have your own experiences at Disney. So you got the nostalgia of your own emotional experiences there, then doing it with your own child and seeing their reaction and the intensity of their emotion mimics your emotion. It's one of the reasons why I like going back to Guatemala with other people now. Like you can never go back and do the same thing the first time. The only way you get access to it is to watch someone else experience it. And then you get to unlock the closest thing you can to your own initial experience of something. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I wrote that. I was like, dang, that is so not like insightful on my part, but then the non-tangible part is the other thing that I was hoping that your examples would hit on, because in this case they do. Like you could try to go back and say what the cost of that trip to Disney was. When I say non-tangible, I mean, you have no way to calculate the value of that trip to you.
Yeah. Priceless.
Magical is the word that they'd like.
Sounds like some good marketing.
Magical.
Right
I'll
there.
say, what's the credit card? That's bad. I can't remember. Priceless. Is that
MasterCard, I think.
For everything else, there's.
So if you missed episode 344, go back and listen to it. We dove in a little bit more, but the other thing that I thought was fun is saying that if you are telling people, because the episode is about telling people that you're using AI, that if you constantly are telling people around you, it's like adding an emotional eraser to everything coming that you put out into the world, because people aren't sure if it's you or not. And so if emotion is the thing that creates connection and trust, then anything we do that lowers emotion, this is also counterproductive, and why a lot of marketing stuff that just drops facts, it's like, that's not, emotion is the thing that allows you to build connection and trust with people, companies, brands, etc. And so lowering emotion seems like it'd be the answer in a lot of cases, but it almost never is. All right, well, let's get started. Welcome to episode 345. I'm Kevin Oakley, and with me today is the ad doctor, Andrew Peak, and Julie Jarnagin. Didn't we come up with a nickname for you? I thought we did.
I don't remember.
You could make one up now.
It didn't stick. It wasn't the one.
You have a chance now to recreate your own.
Okay.
Needs a strong emotional.
That's actually what happened with that Andrew. I don't remember. I think it was like episode 5 or something. He's just like, and I'm the ad doctor, Andrew Peak. And I was like, whoa, you can just call yourself that? And then
you make it up. I think I wanted like a handle too on Instagram and whatnot. I'm like, I didn't want it to be just Andrew Peak, which now I'm like, maybe I was, but that's a whole other, like, to even have one separate, not separate, work versus personal. I guess it depends on how much you post. Who knows? But I made it up. Definitely. All right,
story time. Julie, kick us off.
Story time. Well, a good friend of mine has a teenage son, 16, and he just got fired from his landscaping job. He had a summer job, like
with the emotion around that.
And landscaping too.
Yeah, landscaping. Okay. And the guy told him that he just didn't really seem like he wanted to be there. He's a real shy kid. Didn't really seem like he wanted to be there. And anyway, so she felt so bad for him. She's bribing him. There really is a point to the story. She's bribing him. She's paying him $100 because she loves How to Win Friends and Influence People. Have you all read that?
Oh, yeah.
And he's a real shy kid. And I was like, actually, I think that's I approve of that parenting bribe that she's doing, because I'm just thinking about so many of our conversations right now internally and with builders. There's the market and where it is, and it is a little bit of a harder market right now, and you can show data and do those things, but like how you're actually communicating internally to your team members, how we're communicating with partners, how you're all getting aligned and what you're saying matters so much. You know, it's like the data and what's there. And then it's also, are you able to communicate that in the right way? So I was like, actually, maybe they should make everybody in high school listen to How to Win Friends and Influence People. Because I feel like right now that's where we are too. Like, yeah, everybody feels something right now in the market, and everybody can kind of see what their numbers are doing. But how do you get everybody on the same page, have the same conversations, be towards the same goal? And how do you do that in a positive way? So that's how it came back around. But
I'm chuckling because you're bringing me back to, I listened to the audiobook when I think I was in 8th grade, and I read it in my freshman year when I had my Franklin Covey notebook planner that I carried around from class to class.
Yeah.
I was that kid. I think the companion book to that should be How to Lie with Statistics by Daryl Huff. Mm-hmm. You combine How to Lie with Stats and How to Win Friends and Influence People. You're a marketer. What you do.
What else do you need? What else do you?
I love it. That's really good.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm all about bribing the kids to get them to do what you want to do sometimes.
Yeah, we're bribed. Adults are bribed, so why not? Yeah. Kids can be bribed too. That's tough. Is that 16-year-old in Louisiana?
Yes.
Oh,
that's a hard job.
Landscaping Louisiana summer. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a hard job, and he's a hard worker. But I think he's just super quiet, and he just didn't make it.
He probably sprayed all the plants with Roundup or something.
Maybe. But it
had to have cost someone money to get fired. You know, you would imagine.
There's a good chance we don't know the whole story there. But
that's tough. That's getting. I mean, that's a trade. Like he's in there with, like, who knows, that would be challenging. That's not like, hey, my first job's at Chick-fil-A and like half the crew is at church on Wednesday night and Sunday morning. Like it's a little different. Like first time job being out there in the field like that.
Yeah. And she's my friend. She's a HVAC tech.
Oh. Okay.
So she's a good person to understand both sides of that, because she's in a trade, but she's also that's very much talking to people and about to tell people they're about to spend a lot of money on something they don't necessarily want to spend a lot of money on. So she gets it. She gets it.
That also just spurred. I saw a TikTok posted on Instagram. No, it was on X. Someone shared it. Like this guy who loves to make fun of people complaining about like young people complaining about their home purchase. She's talking about how her whole financial life has been ruined because she bought this house and then she had to fix the roof and she had to fix the HVAC unit, replace the HVAC unit. She had to do all this stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, you bought this home without an inspection, didn't you?
Yeah.
Like she's blaming the whole industry for being this, like, I'm thinking you just wanted the house so badly that you waived inspections and now look what happened. Or else you would have known.
Yeah. Ooh.
And if you bought a new, I don't, but I really want my old man fingers to comment back like that. That's why you buy new with a warranty. But
True.
You save that for Twitter. You don't put that on TikTok.
No. All right, Andrew, what do you got?
Ooh, it kind of fits the news on, this is on accident. So side passion of mine is like weightlifting, bodybuilding, all that sort of thing. So I'm looking for some new equipment. And when you're shopping new, there's only MSRP listed and there's only a request a quote. There's no like, let me just buy this. So like people like listening, maybe go to EOS, LA Fitness, Crunch, like these Anytime Fitness, you go there, like you can't just look at that. Oh, I really like this machine. Go to the website, add to cart, check out. That doesn't happen. Or you're like, that's really $9,000 for this treadmill? Like that, there's no way. It can't be that much better than this $400 one on Amazon. Well, sure enough, if you go through the painstaking process of like, let me get a quote. Okay, here's this. You realize MSRP is made up, which we all kind of knew that anyways. What I didn't realize is like, oh, MSRP, maybe it's 10 grand. You could buy it for like 3,000 new. Or if it's 2,000, it's really $700. Like it is like drastically inflated. But it made me think about like, well, what with builders, sometimes there's like, well, what do we put out there? Do we put all of our specs, what's included right up front, or we make people go through this process? So I've always shopped used for like, with this is like my passion project, like for equipment, something like that. I'll shop used, just assuming because the information out there, I didn't want to contact someone. So relating that to builders, I'm like, oh, are there things like we're purposely gatekeeping still in 2024 that we could, make it for the younger buyer, like the first time buyer, like they're like, well, why isn't that there? I don't know. I'll just, the existing home, my realtor says this. So like this lack of information, I still think we're kind of there with the more detailed things, the content, or it might not be intentional. It's just that's a lot of work putting that content on there. For me, it was just like the price. What's the actual price? Or a home buyer, it's like, well, how big is the AC unit? Is there 2 zones in this 2-story home? Things that it's on Zillow if it's an existing home, but a new home, it might not be included on the website. Just was like this kind of epiphany moment. I'm like, oh, like there's probably still quite a bit of like just specs and features not available that would be really, really enticing, or could be like, we were just talking about the AC, like, hey, here's the warranty. Here's how big it is. Here's like the average power bill for a new home for this builder in Louisiana and the 2,000 to 2,500 foot square range. Like, oh, really? But usually you get that as like part of like the sales presentation, all these details. But I think I'm like, just throw it on the website. I think that would be really interesting to see. Like, let's just go all in. Like, what can we put on the site? Let's just go. Because people want that info.
The only part of all that I would adjust is throw it on the website, because it should all be there. I still think it has to be discoverable, unlocked, opened in the correct order. Because if you just throw everything up there, then now we need an AI system just to go in and summarize the stuff we actually care about, because no one has time to read 40 pages of data. But, for example, every home in Happy Acres includes a smart home package. Okay, great. Hyperlink the smart home package text, make it have a pop-up or a preview window that shows, here's the 5 things we add to it. Make each one of those clickable to go to a different page talking about that particular system in a different tab, or like, you should be able to go as deep as you want to, I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, if they want that detail, like, let's just have it available. I'm sure like a big percent.
Show that off to a point of like, if you go deep enough, if some wacko wants to know how many nails are in the Stanford floor plan and Happy Acres for a Stanford A elevation with a 3-car garage,
19,000.
I'd show them. And I'd have the asterisk next to it that says site conditions may vary, blah, 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 blah. But I would just say our estimation and our pricing and everything is based off of there being 3,472 nails in the framing of the
That's a lot of names.
Let's also acknowledge that we need the technology, that you're not hiring somebody to manually sit down and enter all of this and keep it updated. Yep. So,
yes.
I mean, there has to be systems that talk to each other if this is
for sure
a goal.
I think the first goal is like, if existing is doing it on Zillow and we're not, like, let's get to there, which to me, like, let's be on par with that. And then we could lean into it more, which would then show off, like, there's no toenails in our carpet.
Yeah. Demand drives action in the sense of what we're talking about, of until the industry as a generality gets to the place of saying, this is what we want, and demanding it from vendors and suppliers and software partners. Because it is, I would say, the ultimate gatekeepers in a lot of sense right now are the different vendors and software partners that builders use. Like, we don't want you to be able to take all the data from our system and shove it into another system, because they're terrified that you're going to use it just to leave them entirely. But they're not getting enough pressure because not enough people are demanding it loudly, because there's still a lot of owners who just don't want their competitor down the street to be able to know how many nails in their floor plan, because they think it's a competitive advantage to not let them know that.
It's probably not
silly.
Probably not.
I think we need to revive the home builder meme account. I've got one for you, Andrew.
Oh, we do. It's been sad.
It's been a while since we've had a good one. And again, I'm not political. My family is not political, but we did as a family watch the debates. I didn't really have a lot but everyone's reaction afterwards. My kids, their favorite thing to repeat over and over again, and they're 9 and 11-year-old boys, right? is they just love, like, their own Oakley family meme is, my son's not a sucker, you're a sucker, you're the loser. And they just repeat it, like, whenever, like, someone misses a shot, they're like, you're the sucker, you're the loser. So I'm going along with that vein here.
We need some political memes.
And it's sad, and whatever, you just don't come at me too strongly here. Someone needs to take the current meme of Joe Biden being led off the debate stage by his wife, and somehow say, like, this is not your job as a marketer. For if no one else, this one specific person who they were going through in the course of an hour-long meeting, line by line, community by community, section of community by section of community, the website traffic, the lead counts, the appointments, everything in front of all of the senior leaders in the company. Whether it was good, bad, the same as it's always been, it was just this mind. And the whole time I'm like, this feels like leading Biden off the debate stage. Like, we're going to take the CEO or other directors who, to be clear, should be looking at this data on their own. In the purposes of that meeting, right? The job is to highlight the good or the bad and talk about opportunities, threats, weaknesses, all that stuff. It's not just to say, because inevitably no one's really paying attention to any of it. And now everyone feels like they've been led through all the details. But for the under 25-year-old person who may be listening, do yourself a favor. I feel like I say this every 6 months in a different form or fashion. Every meeting you go to, you should be reviewing all the data related to that meeting that could potentially be part of that meeting before you attend the meeting. It was like, back to what you were talking about, Julie, it's hard enough to have the time to tell a story with data. If you've got to spend the whole time just telling the data that anyone could just look at, you got no time to tell stories. You got no time to tell detail. There's so many conversations it was wild to me. So take that and run with it. But Biden being walked off the debate stage with something about, like, this is not your job.
They're both so memeable, our candidates, without getting political. I'm moving to Costa Rica. Announcement. I'm just kidding. Yeah. I'm not. Oh man, that'd be fun.
Yeah, you have to have time and space to be able to tell narrative stories, and you get people emotionally invested. And just saying, we had 3 this week, 3 last week. and talking for another 30 seconds about the actual numbers. It was like, I don't know what anyone's doing with this. We should just look at it. But I think, again, I haven't had the conversation yet with them. I will, to unpack this more fully. I think it gives everyone the feeling of being on the same page, but that's your job when you're not in the meeting, is to review the data and come to the meeting already knowing kind of what do we want to talk about, what else do we want to accomplish, rather than just reporting. All right. From the news, from adweek.com, are your events delivering enough value? 44% of marketers lack confidence in their strategy and execution. And this is perfect timing to talk about this because the doldrums of summer, June and July, is going to suck. One of the things that always happens when activity levels are down is everyone wants to do an event. Although it often seems like from a marketer's perspective, which paradoxically, like the marketer in theory should be the one that is less overtly like tied to what's the result of this. That should be the sales team, but the sales team tends to request events to create activity, and they get excited just by having activity. And the marketers are often like, why did we do that? And so I thought this was perfect timing to have this conversation of like 44% of marketers lack confidence in their strategy and execution. I don't know about in there necessarily, but I feel like a lot of events get created outside of marketing. It's like marketing is told to create them. I don't know, Julie, you've got a lot of experience with events in your day, including a chicken pecking a bunny in a...
No, gosh, I think that was before, was I not there?
That wasn't your fault, but you were aware of it.
Yeah, there was a pet, animal petting zoo that went awry, and
a petting zoo with 3 animals, I think in total.
Yeah. And I think it was 100 degrees. And anyway, good memory.
Search the Steve Shoemaker episode, one of the ones he was on. I think he told that story in full detail. But
RAP.
Yeah.
Your experience with events.
Yes, I agree with you that I think where did the event idea originate from? Because sometimes if it's from a different department, if it's from like, first of all, did you push back and get good goals around it and what you're trying to achieve before you agreed to this? Was it just pushed on you? Because sometimes if we're just like, hey, they want to throw an event, sometimes we're just throwing money at something that does have no good strategy around it because we as marketers don't want to be doing it in the first place. And what I have many marketers tell me privately, well, they want to have an event, but I would rather spend that whatever X amount of dollars on these digital ads. And it's like, well, have you expressed that? Have you shown them the numbers? So yes, I've seen this too. There are good events to have. We're not anti-events. There are events we're fully on board with and necessary, but it's like, where did it originate? What are your goals? What's the strategy behind it? And has all that been fleshed out before you had agreed to it?
And who's in charge of what? I mean, the article talks about you need to have cross-department collaboration. And this is a lead-in article, by the way. They want you to download a full report in full transparency that you may or may not want to get into. But they do talk about cross. And so one of the first questions that comes up around events is logistical questions and who's in charge of it. And that's where one of the things that helped me, I'm not saying everyone has to do this, is every builder that I was at where we did events, marketing would provide budgetary support for the events and, design related things necessary to it. When it came to who was going to Panera to pick up the bagels, et cetera, that was not our game. It was kind of the theme. A lot of salespeople wanted to have booths at local fairs and whatever, but then they never wanted to staff it. Like, you have to do your part and put your skin in the game. We're not just having an event where you show up at the model just like any other Saturday afternoon and just, we get 100 extra people to show up. Like, who's doing what and how is everyone going to contribute to this? I think that's really important. The other thing to clarify is who's cleaning up after the event, because that was also never marketing's job. Like, nope, not it.
Do we feel... Man, events are hard. Has anyone seen,
Yes.
Here we go. This is here, a home builder event that's not related to pre-sale. Oopsies. where like there's like urgency, there's limited supply, but it's like it's an open community, it's a model home opening or something, like a quote random event where you're like, man, I really want to go. Like I'm not even in the market. I want to go.
I know we use them as an example a lot, but Tilson had their educational things started as an actual event. So there are some educational events where people do actually want to go and learn those things. So there are examples of things that people want to be at. Rarely is it because there's a taco truck.
That's what
I'm not again. I love a taco truck.
Again, pro tip: if there's a local home builder who's offering or promoting taco trucks or some kind of food truck at their event, you should go because there will be almost no one there, and you will be able to feed your entire family of 6 for nothing.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
I'm just telling you, they're typically so poorly attended, and you always know that because they post pictures of the food truck like super close up with no one standing anywhere.
The trick. Yeah, if it's
you
all
want free
close,
food, look for a home builder event near you.
Close images, nothing broad, like no one attended. If you see the post.
Well, this is where I love. We were having a conversation with a builder earlier about the pre-sale process, and people like to toss around words like coerce or manipulate, etc., in terms of the psychological pinnings of that book. And again, like you just had to trust me here, but in my heart of hearts, that's not what it's about at all. It's about helping people see the things that are already there. And so like you have to come up with a reason, but it doesn't have to be free food. Education is a great one.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Exposure to lots of things at one time is the kind of thing that the parade idea taps into. Is you can just spend one consolidated afternoon and go hit a bunch of things at once, which is good, but also unlikely that anyone's going to have the time or space to hardcore sell you. Like you're going to be able to escape because you're on parade.
I wanted to say that, like, there's less pressure with that. It's like there'll be so many people that won't annoy us, and we could easily like reject the salesperson and not feel like we're offending them. Versus like you're standing in the model home with your spouse or with whoever by yourself, and it's really awkward. Be like, no, I don't want to give you any information. Like, I did not
expect to go this deep or get this excited around this topic, but I'm getting more excited as we're going on.
I'm excited. It's like the great events are worth spending money on and a lot of effort. The other ones, like, I don't know, because it's expensive getting food.
So one of the things that we did that, and granted, this is in the mid to late 2000s, like 2007 to 2012, that would always encourage great attendance at events is we used a company called Odds On Promotions. And so like we were the official builder of the Pittsburgh Steelers or of West Virginia football or whatever it was, where we were. And so we already had kind of that connection to people who cared about that stuff and housing at times. And so we would say, hey, the first 100 people to attend are going to get a chance to throw a football through a hoop or hit a target, and you can win $1 million. Now, to do that, you have to pay. They know the odds that someone's going to be able to hit that. And they'll say, Kevin, we're going to charge you $3,000 to be able to offer someone the chance for someone to win $1 million. Now you can say, but Kevin, you're always talking about high quality traffic. This makes no sense. Like you're just getting people to show up. This is what I'm saying, not manipulating or coercing. How would I even know to send you that message? Like if I put that on a billboard along every major freeway, I'm with you. That's a weird way to approach a grand opening. Show up here to win $1 million by throwing a football. But if I'm only telling people who are on my list that I'm having an event, I am unlocking an excuse for you to say, like, you're on my list because you already expressed interest in houses somewhere. Mm-hmm. Someone in your family has. And if I can get your 2 boys, Andrew, to drag you to the event to win $1 million because they get to throw a football and become like Mr. Beast.
Let's go.
Like, that's not a lot of money to do that. And again, the thing with crowds that is true is maybe there's only 20 real prospects of that event. If they see 200 people there and there's cars parked around the block, they don't know why everyone else is there.
That's right. They assume. Like,
so
hey,
other like promote odds on promotion events, educational events. It's a little more hit and miss. Experiential events like meet a celebrity chef, meet a celebrity designer, we had some good success with pre-holidays, like how to decorate your home for the holidays, or how to do gift wrapping things, color trends. We had paint experts come and talk about the color trends for the next year that would bring hundreds of people to a community center to hear about it. But typically it's, hey, things have been slow. In 2 weeks, we're going to have an event. Cool. What's the event? It's going to be an open house, and we're going to have food from Panera,
like every weekend.
Cookies. That's not an event.
And you get there and like, this is really sad. What's happening?
We could talk about the events about nothing. That's a whole other thing. But I mean, you can
like
lean
that.
into events about nothing, and that works too.
Yep.
It's not really an event. It's just you calling something that happens every day an event. Again, for that cover, psychological cover.
I like that one.
Okay, next up from NAHB.org, share of smaller home lots. Someone needs to tell them what words to use and not use. Share of smaller home lots reaches new high. Close to 2/3, 65% of new single-family detached homes sold in 2023 were built on lots under 9,000 square feet, which is less than 1/5 of an acre. I saw, again, X is like the thing. It's the place I go to relax and laugh. Most people go to Instagram or TikTok. But someone was talking about like maybe those incentives on mortgage rate buydowns aren't having the same effect they used to. P.S. They're not. But one of the comments back was, oh, come on. You don't love zero lot lines? Like you don't love living, where you can reach out and touch the home next to you? How could that be less appealing than an existing home? They're getting smaller. It's not just a joke.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm on 4,400 feet. So that's half the 9,000. That's less than half. 40 feet wide by 110 feet. Then our home is 30 feet. So then you do the math. We're 10 feet apart. Our neighbors, which for me, like at first we're like, oh man, we made the trade-off. Like, do we go with this 3,000 whatever feet house, or do we get a older home on a bigger lot that has old carpet, has the old AC, has all these things? And we opted for this. There's nothing I would change. I don't think. The yard, a builder called me yesterday. It was like 5:45. And I was like, hey, I missed your call. I had to do like 20 minutes. Had to get the yard done real quick. It takes like 20 minutes. So there's a lot of advantages, I think, to it. Yeah. There's things I do miss, or things that I think the builder, like if you're going towards this direction, like maybe make it easier to like live close to neighbors, or like have the model home be a better example. Like we lined our backyard with palm trees, so we cannot see our neighbor in the backyard whatsoever. The model home, like the way they set it up, there was no backyard trees or anything, but if they could have had some type of shrubbery or hedge between that, and it's like, oh, this actually isn't too bad. Like this is your own little. It's great
to have multiple people on a show because you're making a lot of great points.
And that wouldn't be that much money, because really it's like in our backyard is complete, so that's also cool. It's 40 feet wide by like 20 feet, but it's 100% done. Like the budget for that compared to a huge backyard, it's like.
Is it fair to say that the main trade-off you make when you get a smaller home site on a single family home is future opportunity? Meaning like you can't make your square footage bigger. You can't necessarily you can't change the reality of that. But at the time you're choosing to purchase, that isn't for a lot of people, unless they're like, if you're imminently saying we want to put in a pool tomorrow, it might have been an issue for you. But for a lot of people, it's totally acceptable to have that smaller, especially as someone younger or who has less kids running around at the time. Yeah. So the trade-off is really like the future, and it shouldn't be surprising that people are able to get their head around, or maybe not even consider that downside in a lot of cases, if the other things are good enough.
I think the downside, and I don't know who you would not blame, I think it just wasn't thought out, is the driveway size and parking, right? Because like you cannot put a house between
in another 5 years.
We don't need cars, but I think the builder could have easily adjusted the driveway to fit 4 cars easily. Almost everyone on our side expanded the driveway to be the width of the house, so 30 feet wide, versus the width of the entrance to the garage, which is super tight if you have an SUV and a truck, or even like my little Tesla and SUV. So and then parking. So it's a little bit of some developer issues, I think, that would have made it like almost perfect. That's all the drama with the HOA. Side note, don't be on the board of your HOA.
The other thing that I think is interesting here, and I think a lot of people would assume that the main reason that the home site size is getting smaller is because of affordability challenges. The interesting thing is that also kind of directly to me, my initial reaction is this: none of this makes sense, because all that I ever hear developers and home builders complaining about is I got denied for higher density projects. So here we're talking about higher density.
Yeah. Right here.
Getting approved more often. Or
it's up. Close
so
to 2/3. There we go. We're at 9,000 feet.
I don't know if that's because more communities in like more home sites coming on the market in totality are in master planned or larger planned communities that get some of those considerations, but your average kind of just run of the mill 40 home site community is not typically going to get approvals for significantly higher density. One off.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's a way to help with affordability though, or should be a way.
And that was my response back to the person on Twitter was these mortgage rate incentives don't on their own create demand, really. They just make accessible a solution for the demand that already exists. And so that demand is waning as the year goes on, I think. Julie?
And just land availability is different than what it used to be as well. So, for them to develop a piece of land and make money on it, it's going to have to, that's affordability on it's affordability on the home buyer's part, but also to be profitable on the developer's part. It's just the way you have to do it these days. And I think that, but the developers, builders that do a good job of it, really think through the whole community. Like, I think you, Andrew, y'all don't back up to anybody, right? No. Like we don't back up to anybody here. So you can, design them to be either really ugly, small, terrible communities, or you can design them to be smaller home sites, but still appealing in a lot of ways, the builders who do it well. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
Agreed.
Last article for the week is from marketingweek.com. Marketing muscles don't grow through familiar work. To help marketing leaders develop change is essential, so it's incumbent on CMOs or marketing leaders to create a culture where fear is managed and complacency avoided. And it goes on to basically set this 70-20-10 rule of how we learn. And 10% comes from formal training. So as a percentage, it's not big. My argument set up here is that, yet if you don't have that foundation, you could get the other 90% really sideways. Yep. And that's one of the reasons why we have the Market Proof Academy, because there still is a lack of that foundational formal training available from the university system. 20% comes from when we learn working in direct relationship with coworkers, peers, and bosses. And then the other 70% comes from direct experience of doing the work.
I agree.
Your all thoughts on the article?
I'm like, this feels right. The only thing I would want to add is, I'm talking about muscles. I talked about like kind of working out at the beginning, finding equipment that I just have to have for some reason. Like you do that, like the 70%, you still need to go back and like every now and again, this is focused for a CMO. Maybe you should make a couple Facebook ads per month. Like, don't forget, like as you kind of grow and grow and grow, you might need to like rehearse what you learned in the past, which will then probably reignite like, oh, here's this new thing, because you're looking at everything with a little bit different perspective. But I agree, like 70%, can we say that's just self-taught, or our experience like actually doing things on our own could be the 70%, which I for sure strongly agree with. Like our strongest marketers that we know love to discover and learn on their own, like without someone telling them to do something. This would be do convert team. This would be builders we work with. Those who are curious. I think, Kevin, you like that word. Like you always need to be curious about all this. And so if you're curious, you'll always keep learning, and that is kind of on your own. Like no one's going to force you to like learn something new. You have to do it yourself once you have that foundation of the 20 and then 10%.
Yeah, I agree with the 70-20-10. I didn't agree with everything he said, though, but I'm a little biased because I was at my last builder for 15 years. And he kind of came from this position of nobody should really be in the same position for more than, what they say, 4 or 5 years is kind of how he made it seem, which I get it that you need fresh eyes and fresh things, but there's also institutional knowledge at a builder that's very, very valuable. So keeping people moving and keeping people curious and making sure you have people in there that are changing with the times and growing, yes. But also, if they're good, the institutional knowledge of all the stuff that they've tried and failed and why is also very valuable, as long as they're open enough to know that just because we tried that 10 years ago, maybe we need to revisit it because of this, this, and this. But I definitely wouldn't, I'm not as strong of an opinion as he is like after a certain amount of time, you should move on or be in a different
No,
position.
I agree with you. I think he started, the article started really strong. And in the context of as a leader, you should be challenging your own people to new and different opportunities and experiences. Like the number of times that a boss or mentor sat me down and was like, all right, you ready for the next thing, Kevin? I don't even know how to count that. Many times those conversations would happen of like, you want to try this? How about this? You want to do this? And so I think that exposure to new things, and he used a line that I remember Myers-Barnes using a lot of, a 25-year-old doing the same job again for the third year is not going to learn as much as if they moved to a new country to do a similar job or rotated to a new function or new brand to tackle new challenges. Those years count more. And what it's talking about is like this accumulation of a variety of knowledge through experience. And there's definite truth to that. But then he goes on to be like, if someone's been in a CMO position for more than 15 years, I'm like, what's wrong with you? You shouldn't still be there. You're a dinosaur. There's no way you're keeping. And that I don't think is true. What does ring the more depth I'd go into there, and I believe the book is From Strength to Strength. It talks about this, the idea of fluid intelligence versus crystal intelligence. And fluid intelligence is something that young people have the ability to do because they're making new connections, discovering new things, trying and discovering new things. If for nothing else than just through strength and the energy to push through that creation process to make those new connections. And crystallized intelligence is that long-term sage experience of these are like timeless truths about humanity, a la, Same as Ever by Morgan Housel. And so I think there's, if you apply those two concepts plus this article and kind of think through it that way, it starts to make more sense. Like I've noticed, and this is an intentional on our part, on my part, I guess I would say too, is I don't myself make any ads for any builders anymore. It's not that I couldn't. So this is where like, I'm not disagreeing with you, Andrew, either. Like I still go into the back end of Meta all the time, every day. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at data and I'm considering things. I don't go build it anymore. And I've let go, Yoda-esque style of like, it's okay. I don't need to do that because there's enough crystallized intelligence that I need to share with people who have fluid intelligence. And it would be at some point, so again, at its base, I completely agree with you, Andrew. At some point in everyone's career, you got to say, I don't have to go back anymore because I'm never going back there. Or like someone else has developed, like I would stop. I can stop now because I trust in our team enough that all of the crystallized intelligence portions things have been passed on, and I can trust them to like tap me and be like, hey, old man, like that's not how it works anymore.
Hey, old man.
But generally, like, so the second half of your career, or I would say after you've done something for 10 or 15 years, you should be okay not doing some things because you developed people behind you to be able to do those things that can interact with you and be honest.
Right.
All right.
It's a fun one.
So let's wrap it up here with what we hate or what we love, favorites.
Ooh.
Julie's cracks me up. Okay, Julie.
My
I'm in the
favorite
middle of camp
is
season, so I'm with you on this one.
sending your kids to the grandparents out of state for a couple of weeks. That's where
That's a
we've done this
favorite,
for.
yeah.
Yeah, we've done this
Good.
for years. I miss them. I'm not heartless. I love them, but it is good for them to be in somebody else's routine, somebody else's rules. Make them go get the eggs from the chickens and make them pick the garden, which we have none of that here. You know, get bored with grandma dragging them to the grocery store, whatever it is. Like I just think they get so much. They come home every time saying they have a new food they love that I've tried to get them to eat that they would not eat and always hated. But somehow, because some cousins ate it, they're going to eat it. And now they love it. And I'm like, what? So I'm just a big fan of it. Send them off, kick them out, let them do it for
100% agree. We do
yeah.
the same.
Well, that actually connects to the article we just talked about, right? They can't go through they can't go through. How old are your kids?
Now they're 10 and 15, but they've been doing it for years.
Right. But like the disservice you would give your kids if they did the same thing every year for 15 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sorry, kid, you're fired. It's time for you to go have a new experience. That's what you need to tell them.
You're fired. Get out of here. That's the most I could do. It's a favorite and a hate. So The Bear, we've kind of talked about. I use The Bear, which is the show on Hulu about the chef and the crazy family and all this stuff. Season 3 came out. Super excited. We already finished it. If anyone else listening, I assume you feel the same way.
Anything.
I won't say no spoiler alerts, but maybe you had your feelings weren't the same feelings you had with season 1 and 2. There we go. So
I saw an article on Facebook saying that. So I don't think you're spoiling it. I don't even watch it. And somehow I got served that it was.
I feel like
people
I know
don't
what
like it
happened
as
to
much.
it. Like but it did. So I enjoyed it. Also, I'm like, what is happening here? So it's back and forth. Now I'm like, ooh, I really want to go to these places in Chicago, which is coming up. Like, let's go. I want to go and be at that table because like that was in that scene for like the whole episode. I want to do that. Kind of expensive to do those things, but it seems like a great experience to have.
Yeah. Now I'm intrigued. I'm more intrigued to watch it knowing that. One, because they're already talking about another season being in play, which I don't, again, whether how season 3 ends or not, but it makes me wonder if this is the middle act of the play, so to speak, where like, it's not satisfying. You don't feel a sense of accomplishment. Things are headed in the wrong direction, maybe. I don't know, but we'll see. Mine is an update on one of the things I think I said the other day. My family got me this meat thermometer. It's called Meter, the Meter 2 Pro.
Great
I think
name.
it's like $150 smart thermometer.
It's pretty cool. 4
probes in the different temperature probes, plus an exterior. Here's the deal. It's both incredible and takes all the fun out of it. So it's both things for me. I love this thing.
It's too good.
My brother-in-law and his wife and son are in town from Sweden for the week. And so we've had beef tenderloin and chicken and some other meat. And they are just like, Kevin, you are like, you should go open up a 3-star Michelin hotel or like restaurant because
do it.
Everything comes off the grill just perfect. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. Thanks. But inside I'm like, I have a Traeger grill.
You feel like you're cheating.
I can change the temperature on my phone. And then I've got this other thermometer that has four points of failure on it, telling me exactly when to let it out, exactly how long to rest the meat, exactly. And I'm like, this isn't fun anymore.
There's always another level. That's what I'm thinking.
There's no sense of achievement, right? It's like you'd have to be a moron to mess this up.
I think
you would have to like silence your notifications, leave your phone in some other part of the house, never go check it, and just be like, I don't know what happened. I followed the direction. You'd have to lie to everyone to like screw up.
My takeaway is if you go to Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, whatever major holiday at someone else's house, maybe they're related to you, and you're like, man, their turkey is terrible. It's jerky every year. This is their early Christmas present before Thanksgiving. Like, hey, got this for you. It's super cool. Like, I just wanted to have it. You do the turkey every year. Like, come on, you take this. I know don't worry about it.
Well, I know there's people listening who will agree with this sentiment. And this is the end of the show where we do this kind of conversation. But good food has to have love and energy put into it in order for the whole thing to be complete. And that's where it's like, I added nothing to this. I plugged in a probe. I did what it told me to do. And so therefore, even though they love it, I can't participate in that excitement because I know like something needs to break or go wrong that I have to rescue or change or like adapt.
You need the drama. You need the tension. Or maybe this is like when we're learning.
11-year-old son in charge of grilling next week, and everyone's going to be like, this is incredible, and he'll love it. But for me, I'm like, oh, this used to be more entertaining.
The challenge isn't there. Harder meats now. Brisket, that's pretty tough to do. Short ribs, that could be harder. Keep it going.
Yep.
Now I'm starving, man.
Okay, so Realtor.com. We talked about this in All Access. They have sometime, no one's really sure because of communication. And for those of you who work for Realtor.com who are listening, I'm not saying anything bad about you at all. I would love to have you on the podcast just to talk through the product a little bit more and kind of what's evolved, because it just apparently a lot of the 85 builders we work with and a lot of people in All Access didn't know this stuff either. But they're not doing recommended leads. What they're doing is after you fill out a form, they're showing you 3 additional properties that you can click on as a consumer and like without having to refill out the form, say, yeah, go ahead and send me that information too. So it's dramatically different than what New Home Source was doing because there was just a checkbox that said, yes, match me with other offers. And behind the scenes, who knows how many people were being matched and you didn't know who you like. So you can see the homes, you can see the number of bedrooms, the location of the house, the price of the home, all that stuff. And then you have to check the box or click more information next to each one of them. And it says like, great. Then you get an email from all the ones you checked, plus the one you filled out the form for, that says, here's who should be following up with you. It's this person or this builder. So I don't, like nothing's wrong with that. But from the builder side, they didn't know this was happening necessarily. They saw their lead volume improving in terms of quantity, but the quality of some of those match leads is not as good. And there's some question about how rigorous the matching is, because it kind of just like it wants to fill the gap with 3 homes, whether it can find 3 additional ones that are matches that are having a variety. I don't know. So it's out there. It's something to be aware of, especially because I believe most of the people who use Realtor.com they're set up in this way where they're paying an amount per lead with a cap. So if you don't get any leads in the month, that's the big upside. You don't pay anything and you still get the exposure of being on the Realtor.com platform and app. You don't have to pay anything if you don't get a lead. But you do have to pay for these other leads that aren't necessarily as good a quality. And the challenge is that the new home specialist or the online salesperson can't necessarily see an identifier clearly of, was this a lead for us? Or is this one where they just click the button? And so it's just something to be aware of. We'll reach out to the folks at Realtor.com, see if they want to come on the podcast and explain more about how it works and theory behind it all. No one's complaining. Again, I'm not complaining either. It's just both an announcement and something to be aware of. And it's like an hour in, so no one's listening anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
They should have got to this part. That's worth it.
All right, everyone. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.
Right. See ya.
Bye.